In most episodes of DuckTales, we see the McDuck clan get wrapped up in some adventure, face a problem they haven't encountered before, find a way to victory, and learn a little something along the way. But what if that story went another way? What would it be like if our heroes went on an adventure and, instead of ultimately winning, because that's what good guys are supposed to do, they lost? And what would they learn from that failure? Let's find out. This is the New Gods on the Block. When Scrooge McDuck sets out on a grand quest, seeking out a missing mystery or a lost treasure of legend, you don't expect the greatest adventurer of all time to come home in failure. But everybody has their bad days.
Hooray! Another victory for the world's most fierce fleet! Where's the helmet?
The mission was a failure.
It's a unique start for a DuckTales episode. On an adventure to obtain the helmet of Genghis Khan, Scrooge and the kids form a solid plan, one that plays to each of their best strengths. But instead of coming home victorious, they return wallowing in failure.
The rare failed Scrooge adventure. First comes wallowing.
Decades of searching.
Then anger.
Ah, no, what's a dumb helmet anyway?
Then he shakes it off.
I'll show those malignant mealworms my name isn't Scrooge McDuck!
This gives us a rare opportunity to explore a kind of story that we don't usually see in DuckTales or similar shows. A look at how our heroes deal with failure. That could be an important story to tell, specifically because it's an idea that not a lot of mainstream media visits all that often. Believe it or not, most adults don't really have that healthy of a relationship with the concept of failure, and how, with the right attitude, failure doesn't have to be a total loss. At the beginning of this episode, we see Webby, and she actually has the right idea.
Every setback is an opportunity for our team to grow.
That's a really good way to look at failure. Yes, you didn't achieve your goal, and that's unfortunate, and it always feels awful, but that doesn't mean your journey is over. It's cliché, but it's true. There's something to learn from every failure. But when you fail at a big goal, this kind of logic can sting. It's hard to think of failure as any kind of victory. But in reality, anything and everything we've learned to do in life is rife with small failures. But we persevered, learned from our mistakes, and got better. Take it from another cartoon.
Dude, sucking at something is the first step towards being sorta good at something.
Unfortunately, that's a hard lesson to learn, and while Webby starts off on the right track, she also shows us that it's really easy to get distracted and wind up wallowing in self-doubt. So, while Scrooge overhears her insight that failure is a chance for the team to grow, he takes it literally and starts brainstorming other friends they can add to their adventure team to help them out next time. This is Scrooge seeing failure as an opportunity, like an adult, but the kids immediately get distracted and see it as their uncle trying to replace them.
Are we not good enough for this one?
Junior Woodchuck Rule 642. A team's only as strong as its weakest link.
We're the weak link?
Does he not need us anymore?
Their confidence is completely shattered. But Della, she's seen this before. She's one of Uncle Scrooge's former kid adventures, and she does her best to console the children. But there's no time for that now.
The King of the Gods is no more! Hi, Della.
This is probably the most fun part of the entire episode. Zeus, Storkules, and Celeste show up on the door of McDuck Manor because Zeus is now an outcast among the members of the Greek pantheon. For one really good reason.
What?
The gods of Olympus have decided that Zeus is a jerk.
'Tis you who are jerks.
That's historically accurate. Historically accurate. Anyway, Selene and Storkules are looking for someone to take on Zeus's godly powers. Selene thinks Della would be the ideal hero to fill in for their disposed deity, but Della herself sees this as an opportunity to help the kids regain their lost confidence. And so, Selene puts the kids to the test, letting each of them choose a godly power and show how they would use their new abilities to help make the world a better place. Unfortunately for them, self-confidence and learning to cope with failure is the major theme in this episode, and well, absolute power corrupts absolutely.
These kids would make amazing gods.
Della, they're children.
And way more mature than your dad.
I'm not!
R2!
Okay, let's see what they got.
It's a great sequence, but each of the kids becomes overwhelmed by the power of the gods in various ways. Louis gives himself a golden touch, thinking that wealth and fortune will make everyone's lives easier, but he quickly learns that the ability to turn things to gold has major consequences.
Okay, nobody saw that. Play it cool.
It's an obvious reference to the Legend of Midas and the Golden Touch, which itself is a classic Disney cartoon short. But that's not the only throwback in the story. When Louis accidentally touches the ground, his golden touch starts to turn the earth itself and everyone it stands on to gold. That just happens to be a major part of the very last story of the original 1987 DuckTales show. Lucky for the world, this is just a test, and Louis' mistake is quickly reversed. Huey wishes for the gift of perception, but immediately collapses under the weight of knowing everything. You can't correct the future before it happens simply by telling people to avoid it.
I can never know that much again!
Webby's power is perhaps the most well-intentioned, and it goes the most wrong. She wishes to be the goddess of friendship, perfect for Webby. But you can't force people to love each other and be friends either.
Tremble before the terrible might of friendship!
Thank you. Next.
And as much as fun as that was, what I really love is that even though Webby clearly screwed up, Della is still proud of her and encouraging. And it's clear from Webby's face that that encouragement is more than enough.
Oh, I think I may have messed up a bit at the end there.
Are you kidding? You were terrifying!
Most of all, though, I like how clever some of these kids' powers are. If you could have any superpower you could imagine, would you choose intuition or foresight? Probably not. Their choice of powers is a good window into each of the kids' personalities. Webby just wants friendship. Louis is always in pursuit of security and wealth. And Huey's value of knowledge is just the top of his character. And Dewey, well, Dewey kind of messed up in a different way. Honestly, this is amazing.
Why didn't you use any god powers?
Oh my gosh, I forgot that was part of it!
It's easily the best gag of the entire episode, but it's also the clearest distillation of what the kids are going through right now. They're taking on this audition for god powers solely to prove they're good enough for their Uncle Scrooge.
Did Scrooge see? Was I the best one?
At a glance, this might seem like a bit of a contrived plot, but I actually like it in spite of that. Yeah, it's a little bit of that common misunderstanding trope that you see in so many cartoons, but I think it works because that misunderstanding is only going one way. To me, this is a nice reminder that the kids are still just kids. It's true, they're all seasoned adventurers with their own unique strengths and talents. But underneath all that, each one of them is still a young person, seeking the approval and love of their family. And in the midst of that childlike eagerness to make their parents proud, it's easy to lose perspective. As an adult, Scrooge already has the emotional security he needs to know that his core team, his family, isn't going to change, even if he brings in some extra help for a mission or two. He believes in each of the kids wholeheartedly, and their place in his life isn't even a question. But the kids aren't that emotionally mature, and the mere suggestion that they might not be good enough throws their entire lives into disarray. And Della can see this from the beginning, just as she can see that Scrooge isn't even noticing it, and she spends the entire episode doing her best to coach the kids through it and help them regain their confidence. Yes, it's absolutely a misunderstanding trope, but not in the commonly used way where two groups get angry at each other over a simple misconception. This one is all emotional, all only one way, and all only because the two groups are operating on different maturity levels. And I like that. It's an episode that hinges on the emotional vulnerability of being a child. And the situation might be fantastical, but I think the way the kids feel about it is actually pretty realistic. That isn't to say that Scrooge has it emotionally all together either. He may have accepted the failure of his adventure and is already learning from his mistake. And he may have full faith in the kids, but like a lot of adults, he doesn't always express that faith or pride in a way they need to hear. And that's another thing about this episode I really like. It highlights the follies of the unspoken love that exists between families. People who might never tell each other directly how they really feel simply because they assume the people they care about most already know it. But that's not always true. Sometimes you just need to say it, even if you thought it was obvious.
They're kids. They feel like they need to constantly prove themselves to you.
Maybe I got a little carried away. The kids truly are the best team I could ask for.
So tell them that.
There's another story in this episode too. Donald is setting up his houseboat for a date with Daisy. It's less important in terms of plot and character growth, but it's still a lot of fun. To clean up the boat for the date, Donald hides his trash by sinking it. That's disgusting! But he cut the sandwiches for the date into little hearts. That's adorable! Clearly Donald is a complicated man, which is probably why Starcules loves him so much. Which is why Starcules keeps getting in the way of the date.
So, fair Daisy, what are your intentions with my Donald?
I'm not going to talk about this sequence too much, but anything with Donald, Daisy, and Starcules is an absolute delight. And it's nice to see some of Daisy's more judgmental girlfriend side come out as she grapples with how much she likes Donald, but also how frustrated she is by some of his more negative tendencies. But when push comes to shove, she wants to be there for him when he needs her. The whole episode comes together in a fight with a Titan that Zeus summoned to defeat to help him get his god powers back. And the fight helps give the kids the confidence they need to get back into the game and rescue their family. With the help of Daisy, of course.
What godly powers is she using to keep the beast at bay? Zounds.
Like with most episodes of DuckTales, the more I dug into the story, the more I found a message that went a little deeper than the surface story. Talking about something that, even as an adult, I can relate to. Dealing with failure and learning how to move forward in a healthy way, it's incredibly difficult, and a skill that a lot of people just don't have. Similarly, there's a real challenge in life of wanting to please the people that you look up to, even if they may not acknowledge you in the way you want. And it's easy to try and fill in the blanks and make the wrong assumption about your relationship with that person in a way that can hurt you. In the end, this episode has a lot to say about personal perspective and how hard it is to step back from your own point of view to maintain a realistic look at what's happening, particularly when it feels as personal as living up to the expectations of your mentor or dealing with personal failure. Keeping a positive outlook amid misfortune can be really hard, but it's totally doable. Maybe we can all just be a little bit more like Celine.
Gross! Della, I'm gonna go use your shower, and then let's order a pizza.
That's it for this review. Have you ever dealt with failure before, and how did you move forward? I know that I've spent a lifetime trying to learn how to move on from my own mistakes and learn from them rather than dwell on them. Like these recent reviews, which are incredibly late. But that's okay. Instead of dwelling on that, I'm changing some schedules, finding the time to move on, and finishing these reviews before the end of the year so we can finish Season 3 and the DuckTales finale strong in 2020. Until then, thanks for watching as usual. Please like, subscribe, and comment if you're into that. And as always, take it easy, Internet.